Serious. What was the moment that made you hate somebody you once cared about? My mom told me a month after my kid's dad died that any survivor benefits I get should be signed over to her to pay her back for the things she paid for while I grew up. At this time I didn't know if my kids would get them. He worked under the table for years, and who thinks taking money from their grandkids is okay? The things she paid for was housing and food. Once I got a job I had to buy all my own school supplies, clothes, feminine products, etc. A month later she told me she needed money for a car and knew I had it. I didn't, and would be over to pick up the money when her boyfriend got home. I hung up on her and haven't talked to her since that day. 11 years and counting. Ex-roommate stopped paying rent and blocked the landlord on everything. When the landlord forced me to be the middleman, he lied to my face about not having any money left. Can't afford food. A whole sob story. So I bought him groceries and got in contact with his parents to express how worried I was, because I could see him spiraling. His parents told me they sent him rent plus a few hundred extra every month. To this day I don't know where the money was going, but he was 3 months late on rent. On the day the lease ended he moved his stuff out and left garbage everywhere and food rotting in the fridge. I spent nearly 2 days cleaning by myself, but had a job waiting for me and ran out of time. So everyone lost their security deposit for the apartment being trashed. And when I confronted him his excuse was I just can't be in that place anymore. I'm putting it behind me. 1 month prior to all this I'd have called him my best friend. Now if I think about him too much I get so angry my hands start shaking. My ex-wife trying to convince me I was controlling when I told her not to smoke meth around the children. Guy I was friends with throughout high school and for a year or two after beat the ever-living shit out of his then-girlfriend who I was also friends with. She called me crying and asked me to come to their apartment at 3 a.m. Got there and she was all sorts of freaked up. Black eyes, busted nose, bruises on her neck and arms. The guy was sitting on the edge of his bed shaking his head going, "She made me do it. She broke my damn statue. She accidentally knocked off a collector's statue he had placed on his dresser when she got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. We called the cops and he got arrested. Piece of absolute shoot." Ex-boyfriend cheated on me a week after I suffered a miscarriage. I disowned my birth mother within the last week. She gave up 4/5 of her children at various times. I was given up to my father's family. Not my father, he wasn't around. When I was between 10 and 12, I found out through DNA tests that my father is not my father. I confronted her with the evidence and she refused to tell me anything or help me find my bio father. Twice, I disowned her, went no contact, and made my search for my bio father 100% public evidence so she cannot discredit me in any way. My aunt falsely accused her husband of cheating and left him. He was dying of cancer and the hospital bills were piling up, so it was her only way out of the relationship without looking like a slimeball for abandoning him. He died a year later alone in the house with nobody around to care for him. We helped pay for his funeral. If she suffers a terrible fate later in life, I wouldn't care. She isn't part of our family anymore. Losing a spouse is worse than losing a father. Thanks, Mom. I was just trying to tell you how I felt and didn't realize our grief was a frickin' competition. I have a cousin I used to like, active in veteran support circles, had been honored at events and baseball and hockey games. Lots of fun, non-judgmental, young veteran, the family's golden boy, especially compared to his younger brother, who others saw as a black sheep who liked to cause drama for no reason. Became even more of a hero after being diagnosed with cancer, presumably as a result of the burn pits in Iraq. I found out last year that he had molested his younger brother as teens, which I found out directly from the victim cousin. And, thanks to our state's laws, he's bringing charges against his older brother, despite how much time has passed, at the recommendation of his therapist. Not only that, but I found out that much of his service in Iraq had been wildly exaggerated. Like, desk work in a secure area during the relatively peaceful period after Saddam's fall, and a lot of his posturing as a spokesman for veterans was actually him taking credit for the real work being done. His younger brother/victim, an Afghanistan vet, the fricker can die of his cancer now for all I care, and honestly, it might be the best outcome for him at this point. former best friend. I supported her and gave her a place to stay so she could work in my city. At the time, we were working in the same field with complementary skills. We made a great team until the pandemic hit and I was laid off from my company. Her company went remote, so she moved back to her parents' house. I asked her for help, just looking at my resume or my freelance work for her opinion. She would brush me off continuously. Then her company needed a freelancer, so she tossed me some work which I was extremely grateful for. I knocked it out of the park and her bosses loved it. But she started withholding project information from me and I found out she was telling them to pay me less and going in to sabotage my work between me submitting it and her giving it to the boss. By the end of our friendship I was suicidal, unable to find a job because of all of it, and when she tried to underpay me I quit mid-project and haven't spoken to her since. I've been a lot happier, got my freelance work published several times over and I'm applying to grad school in my dream field. Last I checked, her company made her the sole person in her position and laid off half the staff. When my best friend growing up became brother-in-law who married a pair of sisters, raped my wife, and I found out a week after it happened, because she was so terrified to say anything. My wife's sister and parents just swept it under the rug. My buddy had been in love with this girl for years. We'll call her Angela. Angela and my friend had great chemistry growing up, and eventually started dating. It seemed meant to be, really. She eventually moved off to college out of state, across the country in fact. They tried long distance. She came back to our hometown to visit and everything seemed normal until my buddy was contacted by some random guy on Snapchat. This rando told my buddy that he too was also in a relationship with Angela, and had been for months. We couldn't really believe it, so we asked for proof and we come to find out Angela was on his family Christmas cards. Though it gets worse, or better if you think it's funny. Lol, the rando comes with more information, claiming Angela had actually been in other serious relationships and had multiple other people she slept with for drugs and money. Then after dropping that bomb, the rando also claims she dropped out of college and is actually moving back into our hometown to escape her college town because of the situation she found herself in. Angela also stole $500 from the rando before making her way back to our hometown, along with thousands of dollars from her other boyfriends and plugs. After all was said and done, she fled home once again and moved to California. Last I heard, she broke one of my best friend's hearts, and it was truly one of the most painful things I've witnessed. Grandma on my mom's side. She's dead now. I'll summarize as much as I can. Grandma was super Catholic. One of my aunts died of cancer several years after a divorce. My biological father died while my mom was pregnant with me. My mom relayed this conversation to me that she had with Grandma at aunt's funeral. Grandma, you know this happened because of the divorce, don't you? Mom, excuse me? Grandma, the cancer was God punishing her for getting divorced. She deserved it. Mom, okay, so what did I do to deserve a dead husband? Grandma, I don't know. You tell me. I was staying in a hotel with my grandma and papa as we were coming back from California, and my papa sexually assaulted me. He thought I was asleep, but I wasn't asleep. He of course denied it, and soon, CPS dropped the case. This happened 6 months ago, right before my 14th birthday. I see him occasionally, but don't talk to him. Nobody believes me and my family, and I feel alone right now. I don't know what to do. I asked my ex-husband why he had behaved the way he had during our marriage. Why did he treat me the way he did? Emotionally abusive, threatening, because I wanted you to be miserable. He made an active choice every day, every hour, to deliberately stop me from being happy, and I would have moved mountains for him. Frick you, Joe. A person I went to high school and shared mutual friends with lost an infant in the worst way imaginable. Of course, this was a huge subject in my community and we all grieve this loss. My ex-friend was closely linked to the family, but not related, and said something along the lines of, well, that's what you get, in reference to the mother of the child. I have a coworker that is recently out of a long prison sentence for a violent crime. I did my best to tell him he was on the right track and that I thought that he was a good person regardless of his past. I took time out of my day to drive him home, because he couldn't get a license, because he had several DUIs over a decade ago. It is about an hour round trip every day. I also took a personal day off to take him to get his license when he was finally allowed to get one. It took all day. That's a full day that I didn't get paid. I bought him lunch on several occasions because I knew he was behind on bills. I got him a nice Christmas gift to help him get started with this job, to invest in some stuff for work. He has never returned favors or reciprocated. We were good buds when working together. It was usually more fun working with him and made the day go faster. One day, I asked my boss if he can help me pack up some of the stuff we had at a job location that we had been working at for 2 weeks. I wasn't going to be able to finish up the job and make it look nice, and pack up all the stuff before the store closed. He gets there and immediately starts giving me shoot, like full-blown yelling at me, because he had to take time out of his day to help me with my shoot. It was actually the company's shoot. It almost came to blows. I won't stop helping people, but that's the last time I help him. When my ex-wife decided I ruined her 10-year anniversary because I didn't want to travel when the entire country was shut down, my opinion on what we should go and do didn't matter. It wasn't our anniversary, it was hers. Entire relationship was basically hers and I was there just to provide. My boyfriend had just left for college across country. 2 months into him being gone, I found out we were pregnant. I didn't know how to tell him, so I waited to surprise him at Christmas. Unfortunately, I miscarried right before his break. When he came back for the holidays, I told him what happened. He looked me dead in the eyes, shrugged and said, "And you're telling me why? It's not my problem." He then promptly dumped me a week later. That was the moment I knew I hated that guy.